Mic check, check. All right. This is gonna be. This is for my book. So it's the Love Bus. It's a little bit of story, but just try to capture it and write it down as best as possible. It's right after the Love Bus when I'm on the bus with Susu and I have to break the news and tell her that I don't actually, love her. The bus ride continued to be awkward. I wasn't sure how to break the news to her, but there really wasn't going to be a right way to do it. I actually did like Susu, and I wanted to be friends with her, but at this point, I think you could say I'd lost my chance. After she called me out, I tried to deny it, and I said, no, it's okay. I like you. But she gave me this weird look that said something like, I'm not as stupid as you think. See, I felt bad for Susu, and I wanted to help her so much, but at the same time, I hated her. My plan hadn't gone the way I expected, and it was because of her. I started to blame her. It was her fault. She's the one who didn't see this coming. She bought into all my bullshit and said yes. But I was just lying to myself. I got myself into this, so I had to come clean and get myself out of it. There was really no way to sugarcoat it or dance around it since I was still speaking in Vietnamese. So the unfiltered version just came out. I started by asking her where she was going to go in Hanoi, and if I was invited and I was coming with her. I figured this would give me a good idea of where she thought this relationship was going and how everything was happening. I planned on telling her that I just wanted to be friends, but I didn't want to break the news to her and let her know that I had a girlfriend for the entire show. She said that she was going to go stay with her sister in Hanoi, and I asked if I should come, and she said no. She said I should call Chu Teo, and I could stay with him. All right, so that was a good sign. That showed that at least she didn't think we were moving in and getting married right away. Then she started to question me. Basically, she called me out. She asked me, again, if I miss Damri. And I said, yes, I like Damri. And I responded, I said, yeah, go tit Damri. Then she said, she also missed Damri. I'm cũng thích Damri. Damri tốt hơn gấu cười. Damri is better than gấu cười. I said, đúng rồi. Yup, exactly. And then I asked her, tại sao em đi với gấu cười? Why did you go with me then? She didn't give me a good answer. Without realizing it, I went back into character. I said, because gao cười is the best, and you like me. No, I said, bởi vì gao cười làm Susu vui quá. She didn't smile. Instead, she repeated herself. Không có mai quay, không nên làm như thế. We don't have any cameras. You don't have to do that anymore. Then I started to explain to her that I actually liked her, even without the cameras, but she didn't buy it. I had lied long enough. I had to hit her the truth. I had to hit her with the truth. I had to give her the truth. But how? how do I explain to her that I just spent the last 25 days lying? That I had wrote song after song, told her that I loved her, that I wanted to marry her, and now break the news to her that it was just all one big joke. I tried to explain to her that when I was on the show, there's Gaokui, but then in real life, I'm Jeremy. And that Gaokui was a lot different than Jeremy in real life. But it was tough given my limited Vietnamese. She understood what I was saying, and she took it and ran with it. She said, yeah, em biết rồi, I know. Susu thích Gaokui, nhưng mà Susu ghét Jeremy. Susu likes Gaokui, but Susu hates Jeremy. This got me a little frustrated. No, it was supposed to be the other way around. I didn't like Gaokui, but I liked Jeremy. Jeremy was honest. Jeremy's confident in his words. Jeremy can understand what's going on and makes his own decisions. Gaokui was a child. Gaokui had no confidence and let other people tell him what to do and walk all over him. I tried to explain further that on the show, I didn't know what was going on. And I didn't understand everything. And the communication was tough. And that because I had weak Vietnamese, it was hard for me. And that the director told me what to say. She nodded her head like she knew, but she didn't care. She called me out when I told her that Gaokui wasn't very smart, but Jeremy is very smart. I gave every excuse imaginable, talking about how I didn't know the format of the show, I didn't understand what was going on, and I didn't know about the other people and whether or not they really loved each other or they were just listening to the director as well. But she called me out and said, if Jeremy's smart, then he would know this. I really had no response for that. She was right. I had lied a lot. And I now had two girlfriends. We continued driving, but slowly our conversation faded and fell into silence. I tried to be nice to her, but she didn't appreciate the effort. The 10-hour bus ride could not have been moving slower. We both took a nap and woke up feeling a little bit better. It was a shitty situation, but we both realized it. She knew I didn't love her. She knew she had been fooled. I knew I'd been an asshole. But what was still unclear to me is how much she really knew. Had she anticipated this? She had to. I was clearly a different person in front of the camera. On screen, I would tell her I loved her, tease her, make jokes, and give her compliments. When the cameras weren't rolling, I usually stuck to myself and hung out with Damri. She had to know that it wasn't for real. But I could tell she was upset. But I wasn't sure why. Maybe she was upset with me. Maybe she was upset with herself. But overall, it was just an awkward situation. I try not to think about it or talk about it, but we really had nothing else to talk about. I asked her if she had talked to her friends yet, but we still didn't have any reception up in the mountains. We drove past the beautiful scenery, rice stairs, the rice fields and the mountains, and I tried to take some pictures along the way. A few hours later, we stopped for lunch. It felt weird deciding what I wanted to eat again and having to pay with my own money. But it felt great as well. Susu helped me find a lunch spot that was pretty cheap, and we got a meal for about $1.50. I was the only foreigner in sight, and everybody was staring at me because of my Vietnamese. This was one thing that did bring me some positivity. My Vietnamese was a lot better at this point, so I was excited to get back into Vietnam and practice it. Even before the show, people were impressed with my Vietnamese, but after a complete month of immersion, my accent was better, and I sounded a lot more confident too. A few guys questioned me and asked me where I was from. It was the same typical questions. Oh, I'm from America. I'm 23. I've been in Vietnam for almost a year. Then they asked us what we were doing in this random city in the mountains. Susu and I looked at each other and smiled. Zulik, di Zulik, she responded, which means travel. For that moment, we shared an experience. We both sat there thinking about how this guy just assumed that we were traveling. Perhaps we're married, or she's my girlfriend, and we're going around in the mountains. But this guy had no idea what we had been through during the last month. And we both laughed about that. For once, I was on the other side of things. For the last month, I was on the outside, asking questions and turning them into my own interpretations that were usually wrong. And for once, I was on the inside, and it felt great. He asked if we were together and getting married, and we awkwardly said that we were just friends. So this was a good sign. I tried to help Susu find a place to charge her phone and be nice and buy her water, but she wasn't really having it. We got back on the bus and talked about it some more. I told her that she should have chosen Damri, but I said it's not too late. I said she can go back and still be with Damri. She told me that I was right and she knew that. But I don't think that made the situation any better. We talked about Damri for a while. We talked about how sad he was going to be since I was his best guy friend and he was chasing after Susu. Probably would not enjoy the show as much since both of us were gone. So we shared a chuckle about that. She kept calling me out for being two different people, Gaukui and Jeremy, and eventually I caved in and I told her she was right. I said, I'm sorry. Gaukui, sorry. Jeremy, sorry. But I told her that she would like Jeremy if she likes Gaukui. But she shook her head and said no. I had blown it. I had blown it. I didn't deserve a second chance. There's a quote that goes, if you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. And this was a classic example. I made Fulk happy at least. The show was on. The show had to be proud of the romantic ending that Susu and I had. But I was disgusted with myself. And Susu had lost all respect for me. The longer we drove, the mood lightened up a little bit. And eventually she started telling me about her work in Hanoi. we still struggled to have conversations since my Vietnamese was still very weak. But we managed to have simple conversation. She told me she was excited to go back to Hanoi because she liked her job. And I said I was excited to go back to Saigon because I also liked my job. She was a tour guide and I was a musician. But we both did things we liked. And we agreed that that's a good thing. Then we ran out of things to talk about. I asked her if she had to get back to school. And she said she had class the next day. That was pretty crazy. I couldn't imagine leaving a Vietnamese reality show and then going back to college the next day. But then she also told me that part of the reason she said yes to me was because she wanted to get back to work and she wanted to get back to school. This makes sense from an objective perspective. But Susu is also smart. She was also clearly embarrassed by this whole situation. And had she gotten fooled completely, this easily could have been a cover-up. But I liked what I was hearing, so I asked more. She continued on saying that she chose me because she didn't like Tuglak. And she knew that if she went with Damri, it would be something serious. Because Damri actually liked her, and he was older and ready for marriage. And she likes Damri, but only as a brother. This was music to my ears, and I was extremely relieved to hear this. But still, I wasn't sure if she was telling me the truth. I had lied to her for 25 straight days. But to this day, I'll never truly know what her expectations were. Did she think that there was a small fighting chance that I was serious? Did she think that I would get off the show and we'd stay in touch? Did she have any ideas for a future with me, or did she assume that it would be over within hours, just like it had happened? It felt good to me when I played it out in my head, realizing that she was on the show for long enough and there were other reasons why she wanted to leave, and it wasn't just that she was leaving for me. But then I thought about Kana and Chuteo. Chuteo clearly took the show extremely serious. He spent all day writing love poems and making stuff for her, and then she said no and left. But then they came back and ended up together. But I wondered how they were doing, because it seemed to be a similar situation. With that behind us, we started to hang out and talk. And the bus kept getting more crowded and crowded. At one point, the bus turned around because we left someone at a rest stop. That added about an hour and a half to the trip. On the bus that fit about 30 people, it was filled with about 40. And every 30 minutes or so, we'd stop, and a few more people would get on. Next thing you knew, the bus was packed to the brim with over 50 people. People were sitting on each other's laps, standing, and Susu and I were squished next to each other. Despite all the awkwardness and lying, there was no escaping one another. As the bus drove down out of the highlands into the city, it got hotter as well. So the bus was extremely sweaty. Eventually, we arrived in Hanoi, got off the bus with our stuff, and waited on the roadside in the dark for a new bus.